Hello.
Hello.
How you doing? Hold on a second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab my little jacket. Okey-doke. Hey, Paul, how's it going?
Got my first after school PTA program through.
Awesome. Awesome.
So got reach out to the 30 others as well, but we got our first one signed up.
Awesome. Tell us how you did it.
We've done a letter, which we've always done because they have an inbox at every school. We found all their email addresses. We emailed our entire studio asking to share the PTA fundraiser, raise money, as well as Facebook. And I think this one was a forward of an email from one of our students.
Awesome. And what's the program going to be?
What you guys say, the 3 weeks, twice a week.
Perfect. Okay.
And I'll do what you said. I even put it in the response when they sign up to contact us, and we'll contact them to earn a free, get a free uniform.
Perfect.
We'll come in and all that.
And I always did that at the first class. I would always bring a uniform. Of course, I would have mine on, which is usually our leadership uniform, but I would bring one of our basic uniforms and then say, how many in here would like a free uniform? And then, of course, every hand goes up and say, okay, here's all you have to do. See me after class, and I'll set up a time for you to come by and pick one up.
This will all be on Zoom. The schools are all virtual around here.
Okay.
So we can do the same thing. I can hold it up on Zoom, make sure you get a hold of us or whatever, or stick around. But I figured we would just, as the registrations come in, we do like we do any other lead. We just reach out and try to book a intro. And
you can do the same way for them to pick it up. You can either mail it to them or they can come by, just like they go to Chick-fil-A to pick up a meal. They can drive by your school and you walk out and hand it to them. So yeah, either way, but you set up the appointment for the intro at that time. We have any pending questions before we start with our agenda today? Oops.
We got some.
Make sure you mute yourself if you're not talking.
Yeah, what questions do you guys have? Make sure we cover everything that you need today.
Master Smith, I have a question about the verbiage for the paid in full.
Okay.
I know we mentioned that it's this month, so that way they'll do it today, but do we talk about the percentages, or is that too much to talk about?
Did you see the letter I put together?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so all you have to say is, I have a quick question for you. When you're approaching them, there's two ways to approach. One, of course, is you're going to talk to them online or on the phone, and the other one is in person. And whenever I talk to them about a paid in full, I don't like them to think that I'm approaching them just to talk about a paid in full. You follow me?
Yes, sir.
So I always like to have some kind of small talk first. It could be something, if it's one of the dads, sometimes I'll say something about the baseball game that just happened, or if it's a mom, I'll say something about the weather, or I'll talk about testing coming up, and we need to get Tommy an appointment set. So if there's something that I need, if he needs a progress check, I can set up a time to do his progress check. And then it's, oh, by the way, did you get a copy of that email that we sent? Or if you direct mailed it, the letter we sent, or if you did both, you can tell them that. For our summer special savings bonus discount, So you just throw a couple words, whatever you say in the paper itself, of how you could save, and then you throw that number out, how you could save up to, and then whatever that biggest savings is for paying it in full, how you could save up to $3,000 and you could still make monthly payments. Now, just make sure you know what that number is. That's the only number you need to know right off the top of your head, but when you're talking to them, so you can throw that big number at them. And don't just throw the number, but remember, it's important to say up to, because remember, the other ones are prepaying 1 year, and that was a 10 or a 20%. And the third one was a 90-day plan with a fourth down. And then the last one was that paid in full that gave them the biggest savings. So I don't tell them that I don't want to address it by saying, did you get my letter about the paid in full? Or did you get my letter that talked about how you could pay off the balance of your program and save? No, I don't say any of that. I just say that it's a special summer savings thing. And I want to make sure you saw it, that how you could save up to such and such and still make monthly payments. Now, I like to throw that in there because sometimes I had people who never even thought they could do it because they thought they had to pay it by cash or check or something, didn't even know that we were going to take their credit card, didn't know they could divide it between a couple cards or a lot of other issues. So just throw it that way. And then if they say, no, I didn't get that. Well, then if they're in person, I make sure that I have a copy of that letter right there, and then I hand it to them. And if it's online and they say they didn't get it, or if I'm on the phone, then I email it right to them. And I don't make it a pressure thing because I don't care whether everybody does it or not, because I picked my best 20 people, and I do that a couple times a year. I call it, it's kind of like we do the renewal blitz. I do the paid in full blitz, and it's kind of to go through to catch some people that maybe that I missed before. But on a monthly basis, I usually will talk to at least 3, 4, or 5 people because I want to get a couple paid in fulls every month, because I know I can bump my gross an extra $5,000, $10,000 to $20,000 pretty easily just by getting a couple of those paid in fulls. So did that answer your question, Dave?
That answered part of the question.
Okay.
The other part is when I'm reviewing the savings options, so you can save $400. I guess I just want to hear. I want to hear how you would say it, sir.
So you want the whole presentation. You didn't want just how you approach them. You want the whole presentation, right?
I guess that's what I would love. I know I won't get that, but I just wanted to hear maybe you say part of it so I could get a better
Master
grasp
Moody
of
and
it.
I did that whole real in-depth way of doing it and talked about how you approach them and what you say. And that was, Master Moody, wasn't that at Estes Park?
No, we did that. We actually did that at Master Oliver's house.
Oh, was it?
We videoed you doing it, and then it's scripted out. If you script out, in my terminology in my school, we call it compressing payments from 60 payments down to 1, or whatever number of payments down to less payments. So you can see the script in detail if you look in the Facebook group and search for compression. That'll come up, and then it's got everything detailed in really grave detail, exactly what to say. So I think that would help you a lot. And that'll do it. And then there's a video as well that'll come up when you do that search. That's Grandmaster Smith doing it more live and showing it live how it goes. We did do it again, Master Smith, but I don't know if that one's, it's on the members type. I don't know if it's as organized. It find is what the
Okay.
we had Bob here.
If you have trouble finding it, Dave, just post the question again in the Facebook page, and then we'll attach it to that.
Yes, sir.
But you can search right now for compression, and that'll come up. The script will come up there. And everybody should be doing that. You know, there's nobody here that you go, well, yeah, I don't know, I can do that. You can all do that. It's very easy.
And I'll tell you who needs to do that and who needs to look at that video is anybody who didn't get at least 5 to 20,000 in paid in fulls this month or last month. If you did it already, then you know how to do it. Just keep repeating it each month, and you don't have to go to 50 people. You don't want to go to 20 people every month. You just want to, you know, maybe go to 5 people. Because
if you don't have a big school yet, and you only have 70 people in your school, you still have some people to talk to about that. So again, it really is for everybody to look at.
And we tried to remind you, it's not to go to those new students that signed up for the basic the 1 year, but it's for the ones who've already signed up for your black belt or your leadership program, because they've got more years onto the program. Some of them 3, 4, 5, or 6 years. And those are the ones you want to go to. Stay away from the basic students, because you're going to want to talk to them about putting another down payment first month's tuition towards their renewal, you know, pretty soon anyway, if you haven't done it already. So we don't want to waste that opportunity. I'd rather have them renew to the leadership than to get them to pay their basic off in full. And then that caused me from being able to renew them later. So make sure that you are going to the right people. Who on the call has had some paid in fulls last month or this month? Go ahead, Ron.
Well, what's the question for him, Grandmaster Smith? Tell us a little bit about it then.
The question was, who had paid in fulls last month or this month?
Yeah, we had 3 paid in fulls last month for the basic program. And then we had 1 for our BBT.
Okay. And was this somebody you sent a letter to? How did you get the paid in full on the BBC?
When we did the upgrade, we gave them the option to save 10% by paying in full.
Okay. So you didn't do the letter thing?
I didn't. We had plenty of paid in fulls, so I didn't
Okay.
want to cash everyone out.
You had too many. You had too many paid in fulls?
Not too many. I had enough.
What's enough?
We did about 15,000, so that was good for us.
Extra?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
We did probably about 70 total in the last 6 weeks.
70,000.
Yeah, 70,000 total.
Great.
And these were all, see, I don't like to waste my paid in fulls on a basic, but I'm not going to not offer it if they say, oh, if I pay that in full, do I get a discount? Well, if they want to say that, then I'll throw that in there. But I don't like to bring it up. I'd rather, because that can cause a put-off objection. They'll say, well, let me go home and check my finances, and then I'll get back to you. I'd rather go ahead and close them on the easy sell, which is always a small, you know, down payment and monthly tuition, and then approach them later. You said about 70,000, Greg?
Yeah, for all 3 schools. So
Okay.
each school, we did a corporate mailing. So we put a letter together that I signed and sent out, and basically was you can save up to this much and still make your monthly payment, kind of scripting in the letter. And then, you know, contact your program director to set up an appointment. And then, you know, we actually had quite a few, but then we also followed it up with emails to their target list. We had each program director, I said I needed you to come up with 20 in your school. So we sent out a total of like 60 or 70 letters. And, you know, we got one of them was 17, and another one was 10, and another 7, and 5 and 4 and 5, and, you know, a bunch of those kind of small ones.
Good. Well, that's what we're talking about. Just, you know, a little extra of a surge. And I'm sure, Ron, that extra 15,000 on the school gave you a little more breathing room to do a little extra marketing or just have something, you know, extra in the bank there.
Yeah, and everybody needs to make that part of their normal process every month. So we're telling you to send the letters out, but as part of your normal process every month, you should get a certain number and have a target. Like Ron said, he had a certain number in mind. That's what he got. And then he didn't ask anymore. So there's a certain target number at the beginning of the month that we know how many we want to get or what a dollar amount we want to get. And then that's how much of your business is going to be represented by paid in fulls. And in his case, he just asked for them right at the point of sale, which is fine to do. But you don't ignore it for 3 months and then come back and only do the letter. We're just doing that to get you moving.
Yeah, every month have a few and know who to approach. Just don't arbitrarily grab somebody and ask them, go through, make sure that you've got a good parent, a good student that that's going to complete the program. Make sure that they're not delinquent, make sure they haven't been inactive and all those kind of things. So just, go to qualified people.
Does anybody have any concerns or questions? Because we've kind of gone over this quite a bit with everybody. Any concerns or questions that you had? Have you tried to do them and not been successful, or you're worried about doing paid in fulls? And a lot of you guys aren't speaking up in our meetings like this. And I wonder if there's maybe a concern about one of these topics that, I know they're talking about that, but I don't want to do it because of some reason. Any concerns about that either we can help you with or one of the other members can help you with?
I wanted to follow up on something else, but it's not about paid in full. Is now a good time, or are you not done with that?
No, now's fine, but any questions specifically about paid in fulls before we move on?
I do. I'm wondering, so we like to have our monthly billing cover all of our expenses. So that's our goal, to build back to that. But then from there, what do you have a ratio of what you recommend about how many agreements to do as a cash out?
Well, the key thing, there's two things that you kind of were built into that statement. One is you want to get your billing built up to cover your monthly expenses, and then I think I heard in there then do paid in fulls. And there's not really a then and after thing. They really both work together. How do you get your billing built up? You get your billing built up by doing enough recruiting and doing enough marketing so you get enough members in. And that shouldn't really prevent you from doing paid in fulls. Paid in fulls are a separate component. Your renewal should be a high enough dollar amount so that when you do, let's say you get 20 new members, and in any given month, let's just say 12 or 13 of them renew. Well, that dollar amount that they renew to should be high enough that it covers the drop off of whatever you're losing from one or two paid in fulls. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where people get into trouble is they start having paid in fulls from too many of their beginners, or they have 1-year renewal programs. The problem with that is that your paid in full, number one, is a very low dollar amount because it's only for 12 months. Okay, that's so there's not really any benefit of a paid in full in that case, or very little benefit. It's the small perceived little burst, but it's not like a $17,000 one like Greg got. The other problem with that is that that you are dropping the entire billing amount that you were getting, right? Versus when your renewal was, $200 more, or $150 more than what your basic program was. Then if you get enough of those, you had 20 new members, or even if you had 10 new members and 6 or 7 renewals, then when you renew those people, that increase in billing at $150 or $200 increase in billing times the number of renewals you got offsets losing a couple of those basics payments because of your paid in fulls. Does that make sense? So yeah. Where people get in trouble is they don't have a high enough dollar amount in their renewals. It's $10 more than their basic. So when you get a paid in full, yeah, you're dropping off that full amount of the billing. So I heard two things in there. The answer to your question is we generally, if I looked at my overall student base versus my billing, for me, the number is about 15%. 15% of the total student base is paid in full. That number could be a little higher, a little lower at some of my schools, depending on their assertiveness. But to get your billing up to pay your expenses, that's a function of marketing. That's a function of marketing, not strangling your business flow so that you don't get any paid in fulls. Does that make sense? So
If I
don't get the wrong thing.
if I can say it a different way, that's all you have to think about when you're doing a paid in full. A lot of people are stressing, oh, I'm going to get all these paid in fulls and I'm not going to have any money coming. See, it's impossible for your billing to go down. If you're getting more enrollments, that means your billing's going up. If you're getting more renewals, that means your billing's going up. And if I get a couple paid in fulls, all I'm doing is taking a couple payments away from my renewals. So if I did 2 paid in fulls and I've got 5 renewals, then my billing went up by 3 renewals. You follow me? So the billing still goes up. Plus, I don't like to mess with my basic students, so that's always coming in and making the billing going up. So your billing is always going up. It's only when you start paying, you're getting more paid in fulls than you're getting in renewals or enrollments. Then your billing can go down. Or if you're getting the same, the billing flatlines. But your gross is still up because of the paid in full. So just, you got to replace these people that we're paying with somebody else that's going to pay.
And don't forget that the other reason we like paid in fulls is that it helps retention. Everybody that paid in full is going to keep training. Like during the pandemic, those were people that kept training. They were a lot easier for them psychologically to keep on training. And it was, a little bit easier you didn't have to drag them in and they didn't think about their payment if they had a financial problem, right? So it does help your retention. So that 15 to 20% that might've paid in full, well, those guys are much higher retention rate. So if you want to get your retention rate, your loss rate down to, 2-3%, you need to have you're going to improve that by having some paid in fulls. So those 3 things all interrelate. Don't make the big mistake people made to go, well, I don't want to have any paid in fulls because it'll hurt my billing. No, your business model is not right. Your business model is not right. So did that cover all that you needed, ma'am?
Yes, thank you. That was perfect. I appreciate your time.
Perfect. And somebody had another question and it was in the middle. I don't think it was about paid in fulls, but I think we probably beat paid in fulls up. Go ahead. Somebody else had another question.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to follow up because I brought up about one of my 4 and 5-year-old children moving off to France, and so they don't want to join up for 5 years. And Stephen Oliver basically said you shouldn't have a separate program for the tiny tots or whatever you call them. Well, my situation is that when the schools were closed, except for virtual, my black belts didn't want to do virtual, and I was the only teacher for several months. And now I have hired somebody who is black belt, but in terms of teaching him, I'm trying in my spare time to teach him how to teach. So what I did about this whole thing is I said in my advertising now, instead of age 4 and up, age 6 and up, because I don't feel that without some help from somebody in the class, I don't feel right about having 4 and 5-year-olds in the class without some extra supervision or some extra help. So what I did is I just canceled 4 and 5-year-olds, except for whoever we already had.
Are you doing in-person classes now and virtual as well?
Oh yeah, and everything.
So,
but just like you said, the people that are in the higher program are more likely to be willing to come in. But in general, in this area, the schools are almost all virtual, and the parents are more afraid. And I'm not gonna like say, oh no, it'd be safe here. It's not safe to go anyplace else, but it'd be safe to come here. I just, try and keep in touch with them and have them see what's going on with the kids that are coming. And this Saturday, we're gonna have a black belt exam for 2. And I invited everybody in the world to come and see it virtually. And maybe they'll see, it's pretty safe there. Their families and several black belts are going to be there to be on the board, but I didn't want to have a class for what I consider pretty young at 4 and 5 and just throw them into a class with everybody, all the basics, and no extra help for them, because while I'm doing it virtual, I'm looking one way, and then in the class, I'm looking another way. And I don't feel like I can handle it sufficiently well to do a good job for them.
Carol, I think you've got multiple questions kind of built into something you're saying. So let me make sure I get it right. One question is, can you do, you know, the 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds with this new model with virtual and in person? I also think I heard, that's one question, right? That's what you're asking?
Yeah, no, it's not. But I don't want them there.
You don't.
Because a couple of times when they came, they would not follow directions. They wanted to run up and hug me, take down their mask. And so I just said, look, it's all virtual for that age group for right now.
So you are working with that age group, but just virtually?
Yes, right now, but I'm going to stop. I'm just going to stop inviting the 4 and 5-year-olds.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's a personal choice. I would tell you, we haven't had any major trouble with 4, 5, 6-year-olds. What I would say with for everybody.
Basic class with all the way up to adults.
Well, okay. So I think Master Oliver would tell you this too, but that we do have a separate class for the younger kids until they get acclimated to the bigger class.
Well, that's what I was doing, but Stephen Oliver was like, no.
And Carol, I think you interpreted what Master Oliver was saying, because when we say that we do all family classes, what that means, like in my basic class, that's what we call our all hands on deck. We have 3 instructors in our basic class. And if you don't have that, then you're going to have a separate class for that little group, because you cannot, one instructor usually is not good enough, even though there's some that might be. Most of them are not good enough to be able to contain those little 3, 4, and 5, because they are a little bit all over the place. You know, it's like, chasing rabbits. You gotta have somebody that knows how to work with them. Now, my daughter is great. She can take that group and they won't move a muscle and they'll listen to every word she says. If I teach them, I'm trying to catch them all over the place. They want to hug my leg and they want to, go over and see their brother over in the other section. So it is a special person that can do that. And so virtually that's easier. But if you're only individually you and you don't have a staff that you can assign somebody to that, then you do need to have that at a separate time. And just parents, those little kids can come earlier, so you could do a 3 or a 4 o'clock class for them if you needed.
Well, here's the thing in DC, all the women of my families both have full-time, very important employment. And there isn't mom who can get off at 3 or 4 and come. Right now, they're still at home, and it's all virtual for that age group.
Well, okay, but so you do virtual at one time, and then you have another time for them maybe during the week that's a little bit later, so that they can do in-person and virtual. So you would have, and so I think the key thing though, Carol, is maybe that misunderstanding that there would be a younger kids class as well in your schedule, Tiny Tots or whatever you call them, or Little Dragons or whatever the name is, and
Little Ninjas, Tiny Tigers,
whatever, yeah, whatever the name is. And we did that little 3 to 6-year-old webinar I did, and I think Grandmaster Smith and Grandmaster Oliver were in that one with us a year ago or so, where we kind of covered some of how to do that. One thing though that's important, so that I would have a separate class for them, one on Saturday too, so then everybody can make it. The other thing I heard in your conversation, and this may be important for everybody too, is that it sounded like you had some classes virtual and some classes in person. Are you doing them all together? So you're doing virtual and in person, one of the words is simulcast. Or are you doing some virtual and some in person?
The only ones that I'm restricting to virtual are the very young ones.
Okay, so.
And I honestly, at 72, I honestly don't want them there myself.
Well,
doing everything and touching everything. And I tried it a little bit and I didn't think that was gonna be so good for me. I don't wanna do it.
Hey, look, everybody's a business owner here. If any of y'all don't want to work with certain age groups, some people don't like to work with adults. If you want to make it,
I love them.
well, but I mean, if you
Some,
want to make
some.
a
Everybody's different.
yeah, if you want to make a decision to not work with a particular age group, by all means, that's one reason you own your own business. Make a decision. Your contrast in that you got to make a understanding of is you'll have to market better in the other age groups that you want to group or whatever groups. If you only want to work with people that live on the north side of the road, then you got to market more on the north side of the road, and you're ignoring people on the south side of the road. So you've got to market better. The 3 to 6 year old age group in a typical martial arts school, if you're marketing really well, is 40% of the market. So I did as far as entry level. Now everybody may have different distributions in your school, but if you look at, I did a very broad analysis of a lot of schools at one point. 40% of the market on entry is 3 to 6 year olds. 40% is 7 to 12, and then 20% represents the rest. Now, if you're only marketing to adults, you're going to get mostly adults. If you only market to,
I'm only marketing to 6 and up now.
What's it, Carol?
I'm not
Only
marketing.
marketing to 6 and up.
3 and 4 years old.
well, yeah, and then you'll get less of them. So if you don't want to work with them, great, that's fine. But make sure you spend more effort marketing in the other groups. And everybody needs to understand that. And if you don't have that distribution and you're trying to get that market, then we need to look at your marketing in those groups because you may not be doing the right job. Typically, we get a lot more bang for our buck in that 3 to 12-year-old age range, and you may be missing out some of your marketing. Now, once they're with you for a while.
But for right now, I probably, until we have a vaccine, et cetera, it's going to be virtual no matter what in the first place. And the other thing that was the reason that Stephen Oliver was saying, you have to have the same upgrades for them as for everybody else.
Yes.
And that's where I have a separate upgrade for the little ones.
Okay, well, I'll tell you right now, that's a mistake.
That's what he was saying is a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I can teach them all the same and therefore have the same renewals.
So that's a misconception of what you're teaching the younger kids. When it's the younger kids, a lot of the curriculum and character development that you should be teaching. And by the way, again, I think everybody can learn from what we're talking about right now. That the idea that these young kids can't be in your leadership program is a big mistake. These young kids, in fact, in my school, renew at a higher rate to leadership. I hardly ever have them not go into leadership. 2 reasons for that, and I want to make sure I'm clear on the answer to your question. 2 reasons for that is parents of a 3 to 6 year old are much more engaged in their development than once they go to elementary school. Once they go to elementary school, parents have abdicated their responsibility to a school. 3 to 6 year old parents are buying, baby Einstein stuff, and they're buying all this other stuff, and they're painting their room, whatever the color is they think they should be, so that they hit the right mental development, right? So, I mean, 3 to 6 year old parents are psychotic about their kids' development. 7 and up, oh, well, the school's taken over. Okay. And by the way, the government is aligned with that because services for kids, if they have any special needs, schools take over. Before elementary school, parents are in charge of that. So there's a lot of ways that this is subtle and important. So much higher rate. The second reason is well, that's the main reason. I'd just say that's the main reason. So we get almost no students in that age group not renewing to leadership. But as far as teaching it to them, remember, Master Oliver's made a big point of this, is the curriculum that we talk about for character development in the books, it's for the parents to learn. The parents need to be in this class. And typically the parents of those kids are in the class. And virtually, they're still in the class. They're still going to be watching. If they're in person and the parents in the car, they have to really be right out in the parking lot in the car watching virtually as well. So the renewal system should be the same, and the curriculum is the same. It's just that the parents are more part of the class than the kids. The kids independently, like the 7 to 12. And that's, they're going to get a lot more out of it, and then the parents are going to be more engaged in that kid's learning, which should be better for us to get the parents, when the kids move into the kids classes, the family classes, the parents also part of the family class. Does that make more sense, Carol?
Okay, and one of the things that I did before was mixed family class was 8 and up, because I can push them about the same. And even then I had 3 assistants in that class. And I had one assistant that was mainly the younger ones, then an assistant for the teenagers, then an assistant or a partner for them in the adults.
You don't need that many in the 8 and up. Just basically 2, one instructor to work the 8 to 12 and the other instructor to work the teen and adults. Teens can work with adults.
Well, you know, our dojo is really long and really narrow. And
Yeah.
I just, you know, it works pretty well to have the teens have somebody that could be their partner or whatever. And the 8 to 12 is one of the segments.
Well,
I thought you didn't have instructors though.
Oh, no, this is back when. This
But I'm
is
not sure
not
what
right now. I don't have that.
yeah, but I'm not sure what the question is
Just
there.
one class.
Yeah,
Well, okay, the real problem for me was I'm teaching some of the stuff to the little kids, but for them to jump into what is equivalent of my leadership class, I don't want to limit that class to what they sort of can do.
Yeah, I'm not getting the question because it doesn't matter what you did before, you know, kind of, we're trying to figure out what you're doing now and what you need.
yeah, I mean, go ahead and limit it to what they can do. It should be contained within the curriculum they can handle and test them on that. I think the message for everybody, though, I want to mention something that Carol said. You picked an age 8. And a big mistake that instructors make is you think about age as a chronological number, and it may be roughly 8 or maybe roughly 3 to 6. But sometimes you get 6-year-olds that are as good as your 8-year-olds and whatever. So we just don't name them that way. You've got younger kids class or preschool class and whatever. So don't get too caught up in what age people are when you go assign them to these class groupings.
Right.
No, and that's why you have a trial. That's why you have a trial program.
I am changing my program based on what Stephen Alder said. And so it's approximately 6 and up is what that class is going to be now. And I'm not going to teach 3 and 4-year-olds right now. So
Okay, again, I'm not sorry to interrupt you. I just don't know quite what your question is about this and what we can help with on this. It sounds like you've got a good plan for what you want to do. I think the only thing I would comment on is you're going to lose that ability to market to the younger group. So you're going to have, you need to make sure you market even more to the older group.
Yeah, then do your 5 and up. That's fine. And, you know, you're going to have some 4-year-olds who are better than some 5-year-olds. So I would still put them through an intro, and then you tell them that intro is to see if they're qualified. And if they don't have to say 4-year-olds aren't qualified, you take them through the intro. And if they're qualified, you sign them up. If they're not, you don't. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, and that's a really good point for everybody. The intro is our sales process, but it legitimately is to see if they can do the classes. I mean, we've had parents lie to us and tell us their kid is 3 years old when the kid was like 2.5 and still wearing diapers.
Oh, gosh.
I mean, we've had crazy things happen, believe me. So, you know, sometimes the kid can't handle the class, and, you know, or the parent's a complete pain in the butt and we don't take them. So, you know, the intro lesson, when we say it's an evaluation, we say that in a phone script. It legitimately is. We never say, I never have ever used the words in any of our scripts, you can come in and see if you like it. I don't care if they like it. We're going to evaluate you and see if you qualify. That's the terminology and language. So, you know, along those lines, as Grandmaster Smith is saying, and again, for everybody, when somebody comes in, you're going to be checking them. And most people can do it, right? Most people can do the class. But you know, in Carol's case, if there's some students that are not comfortable or not ones that you want to work with, you know, you own the business, don't work with them. Did we cover what you needed, Carol?
Kind of, but, you know, I'm saying the advertising says 6 and up. But always I've gotten people say, well, my 2-year-old's real mature. You know, and I'm not going to even look at a 2-year-old. I'm going to say, come back next year or something like that. But I will look at the others and evaluate, I think they could do it. Or they're all over the place, they're not ready. And I will just, you know, I'll just say, you know, get back to us later and then stay, you know, on top of them and give them whatever we can on them. But I'm saying 6, but I'll accept any 5-year-old or possibly a 4-year-old who I think can handle it. I already a long time ago decided I don't want to do 3-year-olds. But I am,
Okay, so
it is flexible.
yeah, so your question is, I don't know, I'm not sure what your question is though. You don't want
Well,
to.
since I thought that I give a different upgrade for the young ones.
Right. What we're recommending is don't do a different renewal.
But
And-
I choose not to have them all in one class at 3 and 4 years old. You know, and so, because I don't have anybody to give them a little bit of extra help.
And we wouldn't put them in, we're telling you that's okay. The question was, is it okay to have them in a different class for the younger kids, the preschool age kids? Yes, have them in a younger class for the preschool age kids until they acclimate and you can push them. The purpose of that class is to acclimate so you push them into the family class. So yes, that's fine. And then when they're prepared, then you can move them into the family class.
And again, that's only determined by your staff. You know, we had enough staff that we would have them come at the same time because some of them had older and younger brothers. And if they had to come at different times, they weren't signing up. So all we had to do was divide our class up and we put our 3 to 6 over here, our 7 to 12 over here, and our teen and adults over here. And they each had their own instructor. Sometimes that one instructor was working the 7 to 12 and the teen and above with a couple of our leadership instructor trainees, not even paid instructors, but you're going to have a regular paid instructor for those little guys 3 to 6.
You have to know how to do it. And the one guy I hired who's a black belt, he's not really a trained instructor. He's getting trained as he goes along.
You got to find the right
He
person.
doesn't understand yet how to teach those little kids.
Well, I would recommend for everybody, watch the instructor video that we did. Master Oliver was on that with me. I think Tracy Thomas was on it as well. He owns 4 schools in Virginia. So we had some really good people on that, and I moderated it. So if you look at, I think it's in the Facebook group, but if not, I can
Put your question in and he'll link it in.
Yeah, and so there's a series of those videos. We did one on Tiny Tigers, Little Dragons, those guys, preschool age kids. We did one on discipline class management. We did one on bullying prevention, one on autism, one on ADHD. So we've got quite a few of those. I recommend looking at those. And if you haven't, I think that would give you a good start on how to organize this and how to teach those kids. And it gives you guys a good background. So rather than us try to kind of pick apart the little tactics that you're using, Carol, I'd recommend using that and then maybe come back after you watch the video.
Where do I look up the name? What?
It probably says preschool. Look up preschool in the Facebook group. If you can't find it, ask me and I'll post it. I'll repost it or remind everybody the link. But if you look up preschool, all one word, preschool, then I think it's posted in the Facebook group, the link to the YouTube video. Adam, you had a question, your hand up?
It was similar to this question. I had a family of 3 come in yesterday. 2 were okay. The one brother I yelled at 17 times to stop hitting his brothers. He was climbing on my stuff. How would you tell a parent that kid can't do it, but the other 2 can?
Well, first of all, if I would never get to the point where I'd yell at somebody 17 times. After they did it the first time, especially hitting a brother, they're out. They'd just be sitting down the rest of the class. So I would stop it there. You probably need to look at the class management video.
It was an intro, and the parents like, they need discipline.
I know. I do. They treat it the same way. It doesn't make any difference. I treat the intro is the same discipline system as if they were a black belt and they theoretically knew better. So
It's even easier in the intro, Adam, because what I tell the parents when they come in is I say, now not all kids are ready. We have if I have one that's a little young that I think might be on the edge, I always reemphasize that. little Bobby might not be ready now, but let's let him try it. And if it doesn't look like he's ready, just coming and watching his brothers work out for a month or two will get him up to speed, and he can always join in later, but he might not be ready yet. But let's give him a chance to try, and I'm going to put him in here. And then after he messed up a couple times and the parents saw that, and I tried to handle it professionally and it didn't work, then I just have him set out. And then because I've already pre-warned, see, now don't do that without telling that parent that before. See, it's the prevention versus the cure. If I know ahead of time, anytime I've got a little guy that's 3 and 4, because we do a lot of those, I always tell the parents every time. Now, not every child at 3 and 4 is ready. That's what we have our introductory program for, to see if they are ready. But if they're not, they're probably not more than a few months away. So we can always have them come back in later. And it might be that they were so off the wall that I didn't even schedule them for a second. And I tell the parent, look, he can come back later and do the trial program. When's his next birthday, or, set up another time. But don't be afraid not to accept somebody. I mean, I don't want somebody in my class that's going to disrupt the whole class. So I've got to take control. But let the parents know ahead of time, rather than just go through like nothing's wrong and then just stop the kid in the middle and make him sit down, because then they're going to go, why did you do that? But if I had told them ahead of time, then they would be prepared for that and understand. Now, I've had them stop the first intro and rescheduled them and let them try it again to see if the parent could talk to them and get him refocused, but not put him in the regular class. They have to get through a first class successfully before I'll even put them in that second group class.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's exactly what Adam had there. This kid wasn't 3 years old, right?
No, he's the middle child. He's like 7 or 8.
Okay, so any kid ever watch the 1, 2, 3 video, the class management video, okay? But if they do anything small, we count, we correct, and then if it escalates, we count. But if it goes to somebody pushing somebody or hitting somebody, they're done for the whole rest of they would be done probably for the rest of the intro, and they might get to come back in depending on how long and how old they were. They'd have to be out for 7 minutes. Number of minutes equal their age. So if you handled it that way, number one, you just explain it. In this case, as Master Smith says, you're probably not going to necessarily have told them, hey, look, we're going to have your kid sit out if he screws up. You're not probably going to do that preface to every intro you have, because you won't know that's going to happen ahead of time, right? Mm-hmm. But you do that, and then you explain to the parent, hey, we don't allow that. He's sitting out. They're going to be fine with that. They're going to think you're a really great instructor. They're going to think you're really what you're supposed to be, which is a martial arts instructor. And by the way, again, this is for everybody to listen to. Follow the same rules you'd have in class. That's the same rule. I don't let kids punch their brother or push their brother ever. Zero. There's zero tolerance for that. Now, when we say zero tolerance, it doesn't mean zero tolerance. They're kicked out of the school. They are out. Then number of minutes equal to their age, they get to come back in. So the kid's out, and then that kid needs it more than anybody, right? That's not a kid that I don't want to have in my school. That's a kid that needs martial arts more than anybody. I finished the intro. The other kids do a great job in the intro. I may have to manage that the kid that was out doesn't cause more ruckus as we're doing the rest of it. But now when you bring them back for the second intro, then you manage it there as well. I think that's an easy enrollment. What you don't want to ever end up doing, and this is in a regular class as well, is using your whole class time correcting a kid a lot. So then you have a bad day. It's no fun. It's no fun for you. It's no fun for them. It's no fun for the parents. That's never going to make everybody have a good time. So that's why the system, the 1, 2, 3 system is really important. You correct as long as it's reasonable. Once it gets unreasonable, you count, and then they're out. So kind of review that process. And I think what happens is because most of the time we can deal with it. Most of the time we can deal with discipline just by correcting. You just tell them to do it and they fix it. And it's not a big deal. But if it starts escalating, that's when you've got to have a system to deal with it, which is essentially unusual, right? This is an unusual case. So in a way, you just didn't know what to do. So don't allow that. Don't allow that. By the way, another example, that's birthday parties. I recommend birthday parties. What I see instructors that are not experienced will allow birthday parties to get out of whack. I know this is it's kind of related to what you're talking about. Birthday parties will get like undisciplined. My birthday parties are exactly the same discipline as a regular class. Exactly. Because we started out that way. I don't allow them to goof around. And because of that, we get 80%, 90% appointments out of that. So it's just something to think about as you guys have new people follow the same process, and it'll be more fun. Okay.
Master Moody, we need to get onto our agenda that Master Oliver wanted me to cover with everybody.
Okay, great.
We're trying to set up, Bob he might have called you already, set up a time where we can do a little progress evaluation on how you're doing. Yep. One of the steps to doing that is to make sure you guys give me some picture of what you've been doing and what you're doing now. So I had Mindy put together this stat sheet, and Mindy, if you could do a little screen share with us and show everybody that stat sheet, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. I had a couple people that had some questions about it, wasn't sure exactly what was supposed to be what, and what is the difference between that and their normal keeping their stats. This stat sheet that I had her put together was designed just to give you a flash view of where you were at last month and, obviously year to date, last year's average. And the reason we do this is because we have to keep track of the big picture. And the big picture is we need to know these 7 things right there that are listed. These 7 things, and you see the leads, the appointments, the intros, enrollments, renewals, total gross, and active count. Now, these aren't all the stats you need, but these are the ones that you need just to look at the big picture, to find out what is your major issues. I call these major problems because if one of them is off, then we've got to go back and analyze why it's off. In other words, when it says 219 yearly average, I had a couple of people send me those, and all they did was put their totals for 2019. It's not the 2019 yearly total, it's the 2019 yearly monthly average. So the monthly average, whatever your total leads for last year, you divide it by 12, and then that's the number you put right there. How many appointments? The same thing. You take your total for last year and divide it by 12. When we go, every one of those numbers is the same thing. What is that active count? Well, the active count is not going to be your average active count for last year. What that number is going to be, we're going to put there at the end of 2019, what was your active count? And so that would be in December. What was the active count for the end of the year? In January, what is the active count for January? So you go to get your January total active count is actually you count it on February 1st. To get your December active count, you would count it on January 1st. You follow me? Because in other words, I want to know how many students are active that have been to my school in the last 30 days. So that's why it's so critical to, now I can take a flash view of January, February, March. I can see, is my active count going up? I can see if my active count is going down. Well, I can tell you this, if your active count is going down, then that means your gross is probably going to be going down. Now, when you look at your gross, if it's not going down, then it's telling you that it probably is going to be, because